Hi folks, how you doing? Today we're gonna see another game by a world champion, another short game, and this time it's the turn of Boris Spassky, who was born in the former Leningrad in nowadays St. Petersburg in Russia, and he was a very strong player, a very prodigious young genius who became a master at a very young age, and won the world championship match in 1969 in the uh, uh, beating the former world champion Tigran Petrosyan, another Soviet player. And well, by the way, the game we're going to see today is from that match from 1969, in which Spassky became world champion. In 1972, he lost the world championship match to Bobby Fischer in that legendary match in Iceland. And well, nowadays he still lives. He's very old, but he's still alive. He had to he went to France to out of the Soviet Union in the 70s or the 80s, but currently he has went back to Russia, so with some health problems, whatever. Well, his style is very universal. He was very strong and could really adapt his style to the people. He used to play aggressive against the positional players, played very positional against very tactical players, and he was very flexible and very strong player. So we're gonna see the game in which he plays Tigran Petrosyan. Spassky is white here. He plays e4. He really was flexible with the openings. He could play e4, d4, and Petrosyan played the Sicilian. Now Petrosyan had a number of openings, defenses against e4, and well, the Sicilian neither was one of them, but he was also very known as a specialist, as an absolutely master in the French and the Caro-Kann. So we're gonna reach the main line Sicilian, the Najdorf, and Bishop g5, the old main line, played thousands and thousands of times. There is now Petrosyan plays knight bd7, not the most common move. It is much more common to play, I think, e6, and well, and f4 with tons of options for black and an insane amount of theory here. It is absolutely crazy the number of moves and variations on games you got here. There are lots of plans for black to play bishop e7, I don't know, knight bd7, queen b6, queen c7, bishop d7, I don't know. There are countless. But knight bd7 was played first in this case. Now this is also theoretical, but not that common. Bishop c4, Queen a5, attacking the bishop on g5, and some logical moves here. Queen d2. It is developing, getting prepared to castle long and protect the bishop on g5, which is more important. Once again, e6 here is more played, more common, and black also scores much better with this e6 move than with h6. This is what Petrosyan played here. Now bishop took and knight takes. White castles long, and now black plays e6. Now the position is more or less equal, but white must be slightly better here, but nothing really that great. I mean, he has lots of development. He has more or less control the center, but black hasn't got big weaknesses. He has the bishop pair, and it is well, these pawns on e6 and d6 are very flexible, controlling the center. So this is roughly equal position, maybe slightly favorable for white, but I think there is not much problem here for black. Now instead of e6, e5 would take under control this d4 and f4 squares, but would leave black with a very typical hole on lots of Sicilian lines in d5. Now this square would be very weak, and this backward pawn on d6 would be weak also. So white would probably concentrate his effort on dominating this d5 square, trying to put a strong piece there and put pressure on this d6 pawn. Now this did not happen. e6 was played, some logical moves, rook he1, bishop e7, and well, black has to define where he's going to put his king. Another idea probably was to play bishop d7 and later to castle on the queen side, not on the king side. but this did not happen as Petrosian decided it was safe to castle on the king side, a decision he probably will regret. F4, taking more control on the center, short castle, and bishop b3, kind of prophylactic move, anticipating b5, rook e8, king b1, another prophylactic move, bishop f8. Now Petrosian is reorganizing his pieces defensively around his kings, probably knowing, because he was a very strong positional and defensive player, anticipating the storm he could be under, with all these pawns on the king side going for his king. And immediately Spassky played this move g4, strong move, offering a pawn for initiative and to open up lines against the enemy king. Petrosian takes, otherwise that pawn is going to keep advancing, and not taking it is not going to help Black too much. So knight takes g4 and queen g2, knight f6 and rook g1. Now the threat is to checkmate on g7, and although the bishop is on f8 protecting, it is already kind of a problem Black has to deal with and has to be careful. Now bishop d7, while Black is developing the bishop on c8 and will try to have some counterplay, but as we will see, he's not going to be in time. White keeps attacking. Now f5, typical move I think in lots of Najdorf and Sicilian lines, where you got the bishop, light square bishop on b3, and Black has castled kingside, and well, this e6, f7 pawns, this light square diagonal is going to be an issue. Now this pawn is attacked 3 times with the knight, the pawn, and the bishop, and although it's protected, there could be lots of tactics arising. This is one of the reasons that makes the Open Sicilian so fun to play. King h8, getting away from the diagonal, getting away from this g file, more or less prophylactic move. Now rook df1, bringing the other rook to the king side. Now the engine suggests another queen. After this queen d8 was played, the queen goes back. Probably Petrosian realizes he has not time for counterattack on the queen side, and he brings the queen back to try to defend his king. Now, as I was saying, at this point the engine is suggesting another move to defend, which, well, the engine says is more accurate and seems logical. Now queen e5. It is, well, the first, it's putting the queen in the very centralized square, and the queen is attacking the knight for the time being. Now bishop f takes e6 is suggested, bishop takes, and after some exchanges and knight f3, the queen goes to h5 for instance, and it seems that the exchange have helped Black because there are less pieces to attack. The bishop, which is very strong here on this diagonal, has disappeared, and well, the queen now is more or less well placed here, controlling more or less lots of squares, and doesn't seem that White has that deadly attack. Of course, Black probably has a couple of weaknesses here, but a couple of discoordination, but should be holdable. This is better for White, but nothing really that scary, I think. Instead, queen d8, and well, it seems that Black's position is a little bit cramped, although we all know Petrosian is a very strong defensive player. And we will see the game will be decided by a couple of mistakes, but overall Petrosian plays more or less well here. Now f takes, and e5. Really strong move, opening up lines. D takes e5, and another crazy move here, a really spectacular one. A move well, at least me, I wouldn't think of unless I have to find the move in about 5 hours. Knight e4. Very nice move. Now it seems Black has lots of options, but in fact Black has to be very, very careful because there are lots of deadly threats against his king, lots of nasty tricks. Knight h5 is the correct move, giving extra protection to the pawn on g7 and avoiding the exchange on f6. Now let us see a couple of little variations in which Black would be lost in a couple of moves. Now the first one is, what if I take on d4 with the knight? Well, the point is that knight takes f6, and now of course if g takes f6, checkmate in one move. Probably not that difficult to see, and it wasn't either too difficult to see that queen takes f6 and rook takes the queen. And apart from losing the queen, if g takes f6, queen g8 is checkmate once again. Another possibility was to take on e4, but that also fails to rook takes f8 check, removing the defender of the g8, g7 square, and now rook takes f7, queen takes g7. So as you see, there are a couple of little tricks, not very complicated to see, but this move is amazing for me, the little tricky move. Now knight h5 was played, and queen g6, attacking the knight and keeping the pressure on the king side. Now black king is really not feeling that great. He is kind of sieged by the white pieces. At this point, e takes d4 was played. Black feels that now he can take the pawn, and in fact, the knight, and in fact he is not losing on the spot. This is not that bad. Another funny variation was to put the knight on f4, attacking the queen, but it seems that white has lots of promising ways of winning here. Lots of really interesting lines. For instance, rook takes f4, g takes f4, and now knight f3. Queen b6, for instance, attacking the rook. Now the rook goes to g5, a spectacular move. And well, if h takes g5, the knight takes, and the checkmate on h7 is unstoppable. Note that the knight on f3 is guarding the g1 square, so there is no checkmate. Back rank. And if black does not take, say bishop c6, developing the piece to c6, now knight f6, and once again it is threatening to checkmate on h7, and if black takes, well, this is a checkmate on g8, so a really complicated position for the black king, so lots of pieces surrounding it, and black must be really very careful. So Petrosian decided to take on d4, the knight, and now knight g5, more or less similar tricks to which we saw. It is threatening to checkmate on h7, so h takes g5, queen takes g5, h5 check, king g8, f7 check, king h8, and at this point it is clear that Spassky has done a spectacular job. Now he is absolutely crushing. Black king is feeling really miserable, and in fact, well, all this did not happen because just after knight g5, it was clear that white is going to win. So Petrosian had resigned, but this is what would happen, because the only way to avoid checkmate really is to take, and now after check, as we saw, king h8, now there are lots of ways of continuing here. For instance, to bring one of the rooks to the h5, checkmate black, is more or less the main idea. Say rook g3, and for instance, I don't know, g4 to protect that h3 pawn. Here white can, for instance, take the pawn, and there is the idea to bring the queen to h4, h5 check, then bring the rook and checkmate him black on h8, as the f7 square will be guarded by the other rook on f8, f1. Lots of ways really of winning this, and there shouldn't be any way for black to escape. So after this knight g5, Petrosian already resigned the game. Only 24 moves, not really common to see a world champion and a very strong defensive player to resign a game in 20-something moves, but okay, we got Spassky here, a really talented player who beat almost every world champion he could play with, and he was very versatile. He could play lots of these kind of attacking games and beat strong players like Petrosian, as we saw. Hope you liked the game, and thanks for watching.